Hey guys, welcome back from Classic Work. I got a request the other day that somebody wanted to learn how to cut hip rafters. And I've been promising I would do this video for a long time. I've had several people contact me and ask about this, so today is y'all's lucky day. I'm finally doing the video on it. I'm going to show you how to cut hip rafters today. This is probably going to be video 1 of 2. Next video I make will be how to cut the valley rafters. And we're all going to be doing it with a speed square. So, real simple technique. I want to show you the easiest way I know how. There are better ways of doing it out there. Some people use trigonometry to figure out your pitches and angles, but everything I'm going to show you how to do, you can do it through kind of a formula, a basic formula that you have, and it's all done with pitch and rafter layout tables. I mean, real simple to do, real easy. So, without any further ado, let's get started and let's get after it. Okay, the first thing that I'm going to tell y'all is there's one thing that you have to understand when you're dealing with pitches of roofs. Whenever you cut your common, which is all the ones that are running the length down the roof from the ridge, they're all set at a certain ratio, we'll put it like that. And it's very easy to explain with the framing square. When they talk about pitch, they talk about it within 12 inches or 1 foot. So if you have a 6 and 12 pitch, let's see if I can do this. Here's 6 inches up here, and here's 12 inches down here. So it'll look, that's your rise over run. Is that right there? Now, that's all in all the common. The common is all 12. When we run into hips and valleys, they're set at a different ratio. They're set at 17 versus 12. And I know that kind of doesn't make any sense, but this right here would be equilateral triangle. That's 12 and 12. So that's what the commons are preferably set to, is 12. So if you have 12 and 17, if you notice, okay, there's 12 and 17, you can see that that pitch is a little bit different. And that's the trick with when you're cutting these rafters for your hips. And it's very easy to get confused. So that's one thing that we're going to have to talk about a little bit. So on your speed squares, you'll have your common, which is all down here, and then you'll have your hip valley that's up here. So remember, the hip valley is up here is 17 and 12. And remember that your common is 12 and 12. So just keep that in mind, and it'll make more sense as I do it. So let's take a look at what you need to do to cut these. Okay, when you're setting your hip rafters, there's a few things that you've got to do that's a little bit different than doing a conventional gable style roof. You'll have to set back your commons a certain distance. So you need to know what that distance is. Well, it's real easy to figure out. If you've got a straight roof and you're coming towards the end of the roof where you're going to put your hip on, measure the width of your building. In this case, this is the short span, it's only 4 feet. So whatever your span is divided by 2, which in this case would be 2 feet, and you'll measure off your rafter side and measure off to the end back here and make sure that's 2 feet. So now then, you'll know that whenever you cut your hip rafter to put into this spot, that it will line up and it'll fit and it'll be where it's supposed to be, essentially. So we know that our width is 4 feet, and on this pitch, this is a 6 and 12 pitch. So if we know both of those numbers, we can determine the hip. So if you've got Swanson Speed Square, if they came with a little blue book, this will give you all your rafter tables. That'll tell you everything you need to know about what you need to cut for your hip. So let's take a look at it. Okay, now I've turned to the page in here to width of buildings, and we're going to look for our 4 feet, which is up here, and then we're going to come over to the hip. We're going to come down to 6 and 12. I've got 6 marked over here for inch rise and pitch. You have to come all the way over, and if you see right here, very hard to read, I'm sorry, but it's 3 feet. So we know that our rafter here, from the corner of the edge to the center of the ridge up there, is 3 feet. Okay, we got to do a few things for our layout now. Now this here is where it gets different. We know that our run from our ridge plumb cut to our seat cut is 36 inches. So we've got to work on what's known as the cheek cut. Only hip rafters have a cheek cut, and this cut's kind of difficult. I mean, it's kind of complex. So first thing that we're going to do is go ahead on the edge of the corner of the board, take your speed square, put it on the corner, and you're going to set your speed square to 6 and 17, meaning that you'll use the hip and the valley markers for it. So go ahead and scribe a line, 6 and 17. Okay, that's right on that edge right there. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to lay out the cheek. So first thing we're going to do is come off of that mark 3/4 of an inch, and then while you're there, go ahead and come off 1.5 inches. Okay, now come back up the line a little bit and then do the same thing. 3/4 of an inch, 1 inch. Okay, now we've got our set of lines. You can take a straight edge or anything that is straight and go ahead and scribe your lines. And do it again for the bottom one. Okay, and then you've got 3 lines that are parallel to each other that are 3/4 inches apart. So this right here is where it gets kind of weird. You're going to turn your board up and go ahead and mark, should be around that corner, go ahead and mark all of your lines on the other edge. So what you're going to do now is take your square, set it at 45 degrees, and you'll just extend those lines all the way out. I got a little off on that one. That should go to the corner. Okay, flip the square over and do the same thing going back. Okay. Make it like an X. There we go. Okay, now then, that is going to be our cheek. And I know that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but whenever you run the saw, you will cut out all this material here. And you'll be left with this right here. It looks kind of like a U, kind of like a very square looking V is what it is, excuse me, not a U. But anyways, that's the cut that you're going to make. So we know that this line right here, our center, that right there is where we're going to measure our 36 inches off of. So now that we know that, we're going to take our rule, extend it out to 36 inches, come off our center portion right here on the edge, come down here and mark 36 inches. Or you can come out from the edge and subtract 3/4 of an inch, essentially. Okay, we're going to square this line. Okay, and then we're going to set our square to 6 and 17. So we draw it parallel to our ridge plumb cut. Okay, take our folding rule again. We're going to come up from the bottom portion down here. The width of this 2x4, which is 1.5 inches. Okay, and you can use a framing square or a speed square. You're going to place the square on the line. You're going to draw a perpendicular line from that 1.5 inch mark off of the 6 and 17. So it's 9 degrees to each other, so that'd be 9 degrees. Okay, and this right here will be your waist. Now we've got to add a little bit for our tailstock, so we have something to mount our fascia to. And we want 8 inches. Barely going to make that. We're going to make it though. Make a mark down here at the end. And you will just draw a square line off of that. And there you go, and that's all your cuts. So this right here will be your waist. And up here on the cheek, this right here gets kind of complicated. I'm going to show you how to cut this and not screw it up. So let's take a look at that. Okay, now cutting the cheek cut, you're going to set your your skill saw to 45 degrees to make this cut. So we've got 2 cuts to make, so we've got to be sure we're on the right line to begin with. If you cut this line first, which is going to be cutting towards the inside, you'll cut away all of your other marks and you won't have any reference to cut the next one on. So always cut your outside line first. So this here's what it'll kind of look like. Okay. There's one. Go to the other side, flip your saw around, and you'll cut the back side. There you go. You got a nice, pretty cheek cut. Okay, let's test our fit. So your bird's mouth will come back on the corner and seat, and your ridge cut should split the ridge half in 2 up on the ridge and be flush up under. And that's not too bad. Looks pretty good. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and screw all this down, and we'll take a closer look at it. Okay, as you can see, we got a nice pretty ridge plumb cut, and it splits the ridge right down the center just like you need it to. Not sticking up past. Well, this one has a little bit. It's okay though. And then we'll look down here. We got a nice good seat on the back. Got a little bit of light shining through down here. I could have got that a little bit tighter. But I want to show you something. If you notice, there's a big, it's a corner fitting into this, and that's not real desirable because it's not a very pretty joint, or it's not really a joint, it just doesn't fit good. And I want to show you what you can do to fix this. Not all codes allow it, some of them enforce it. What you can do is cut the corner off the side of your building, and that way that rafter seat has something really strong to sit to. So the trick to that is this. All you have to do is pretty much on the edge of your corner, the corner's gone now, but if you measure off your corner 1 inch and go in, and then just strike you off a 45-degree line, which you'll just take your square and scribe a 45 off the side. Now what this allows you to do is when you get your other hip up, this back of the seat will fit nice and pretty up against the side of it. Now I cut this one a little bit big, so it's going to have a little bit of meat showing on either side, but that's not always a bad thing. So let me screw this down real quick and get a good look at it. As you can see, that fits a whole lot better than the one over there on the opposite side. So that's one trick that you can do to combat this. We'll take a look up here on the ridge. Things nice and even. Got a little bit of crack right there, but that's not bad. But that is the lowdown on hip rafters. Once again, thank y'all for watching here from Classic Work. Please subscribe to me if you like, ask comments. Please, love questions and comments. Keep them rolling, please. And thank y'all. I hope this helps any of y'all's building endeavors. And once again, from Classic Work, y'all take care. I'll see you next time.